FLM, wide open thinking, world-class work, and far-reaching results. Now with locations in Minneapolis, Columbus, Indianapolis, and Washington, D.C. A strategic marketing and communications company dedicated to serving clients who specialize in the business of agriculture and the life of rural communities.
Congressman Sanford Bishop from Georgia's 2nd District, thank you for joining us.
Delighted to be here.
For starters, can you tell us a little bit about your district and the kinds of agriculture in it?
Well, I represent the 2nd Congressional District of Georgia, which is basically 29 counties in middle and southwest Georgia. We have a broad portfolio of agriculture that has grown. We have the largest peanut district in the country. Our state and our district has a lot of pecans, and of course Georgia is #1 in pecans. We're also #1 in poultry. We're also #1 in blueberries. And of course we grow the other traditional staples, corn, soybeans, and produce. So we have a significant amount of that. So we've got broad agriculture, including forestry.
Now, you serve on the Appropriations Committee, and something I've noticed, it seems that when a member serves on the Appropriations Committee, that's quite often the only committee they serve on.
Well, Appropriations is what is called an exclusive committee. Because of the breadth of the responsibilities, the House rules generally provide that a member can only serve on one exclusive committee. And of course, I have 3 subcommittees on the Appropriations Committee, so it's really like 3 full committees on the authorizing side. I serve on the Agriculture Subcommittee, of course, of Appropriations, and the Military Construction Veterans Affairs Subcommittee of Appropriations, where I'm the ranking Democrat, and also serve on the Financial Services Subcommittee of Appropriations.
So, do you like it that way, or do you sometimes wish you could work out and branch into some other committee work, or do you think your time is dedicated well enough in Appropriations?
Well, it's very, very demanding work. Our Appropriations Committee has hearings. Each of our subcommittees has hearings, and then after our subcommittee hearings, we have the full committee that, of course, has to meet for markups. And of course the subcommittee markup, then the full committee markup, then the bill goes to the Rules Committee, and then from the Rules Committee to the floor. And when you consider the hearings, when you consider the visits from various interest groups prior to the hearings, and of course the markups, which can be extended as we've had over the past week, for the 12 appropriations bills that are finally completed, it's pretty demanding, and so it's very difficult. There are some exemptions and some exceptions, but for the most part, when members serve on appropriations, they will be serving only on the Appropriations Committee and the subcommittees to which they are assigned. 1 or 2 members will have some exceptions, but for the most part, because of the demanding nature, it's pretty, quote, exclusive.
Let's talk about the subcommittees that you mentioned earlier, in particular the Agricultural Subcommittee. What are some of the priorities that you have throughout the course of your subcommittee work, particularly within agriculture?
Yeah, we fund the Department of Agriculture and all of its sub-agencies, along with FDA. We have some jurisdiction there. But agriculture is, of course, of particular interest to me because the largest economic sector in the state of Georgia is agriculture. It's #1. And of course, the district that I represent is #1 in peanuts, pecans, and poultry, and we are right there producing the #1 products that come from our state. And I want to utilize the political process and my position in Congress to enhance the quality of life and livelihood of the people in my district and the people of our state, and of course overall the people of the United States of America. And serving on the Appropriations Committee allows me, in the area of agriculture, for example, to look after ag research. And we have the National Peanut Lab in my district. Right adjacent to my district, where it used to be a part of my district, is the University of Georgia Extension Service facility in Tifton, Georgia. And of course, we have the National Pecan Lab in Peach County, and right just outside of Fort Valley, Barron. And it's extremely important for us to be on the cutting edge of agriculture, because of our ag research, which is one of the major line items in the agriculture budget. The United States of America is able to produce the highest quality, the safest, the most economical, and the safest food and fiber anywhere in the industrialized world. And of course, that makes a big difference in our competitiveness in the global marketplace in terms of agriculture, and also in terms of the domestic benefits to our local economy. We also are interested in rural development. My district is about 50-50 urban-rural. We've got 3 metropolitan areas, Macon, Columbus, and Albany. And the areas surrounding them are rural areas, and much of those rural areas is consumed with production agriculture. Peanuts, cotton, pecans, poultry, and we have produce, fruits and vegetables. So that's extremely important. And the Farm Service Agency, which funds all of our farm programs, is of great interest to my constituents who are involved in agriculture. And all of the programs that we fund in the Agriculture Subcommittee are very, very, very important to my constituents there. And I want to make sure that they are adequately taken care of. Rural development. We've got some challenges in rural America, and of course in rural Georgia. And of course, the economic development for our rural areas, rural utilities, broadband, the opportunity for telemedicine to bring health care to rural areas, to bring access to advanced placement courses for our school systems, is all enhanced by the broadband services, which again is funded by the Rural Utility Service. If you just think about our EMCs, our electric memberships, rural electric, electricity is so important for obviously the day-to-day activities, light, and being able to power the agriculture equipment, for example. And of course the partnership with Georgia Power and the electric membership corporations in our district and across the state of Georgia is extremely important. And being able to be a part of that Agriculture Appropriations Subcommittee in funding the rural utilities, whether it's water, sewer, or electricity, is of course very beneficial. And of course we have conservation. We have the forestry. All of the elements of agriculture are so vital and so inextricably intertwined with the livelihood of our district. So I find myself in what I believe is a good place to help my constituents. When I came to Congress 24 years ago, I knew that it was a heavy agriculture area and I needed to serve on the Agriculture Committee. And I was fortunate enough to get an assignment on the Agriculture Authorization Committee, for which I served for 9 years, I believe. And of course, when I left that committee as an authorizer, I was fortunate to get a seat on the Appropriations Subcommittee of Appropriations when I got on the Appropriations Committee. My district also is very heavily military and veterans. And of course, I served on the Veterans Affairs Authorizing Committee. I took leave of that after several terms, and I served for 6 years on the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. And believe it or not, I sought a seat on the Intelligence Committee because I was traveling with the bilateral commission with the U.S. Department of Agriculture as a member of the Authorizing Agriculture Committee to South Africa. And while in South Africa, I got to engage with U.S. Wheat Associates that was selling U.S. wheat across the continent of Africa, and I was asking them how they knew where to sell it, how they knew what price to sell it, how they could forecast the markets in those foreign, and of course they told me it was connected to the intelligence that they were able to get from our intelligence community in the United States. So I thought that was intriguing, and I thought I could help my peanut farmers back home and my other agricultural producers if I was on the Intelligence Committee. I got on the Intelligence Committee, and I found it to be a very, very interesting and enlightening experience for me. But when I got on the Appropriations Committee, I really felt that I had come to a place that would allow me to be able to deliver. Authorizing committees in Congress are very much like preparing wish lists. The legislation is passed, but it's only as good as the funding. And of course, the Appropriations Committee is the committee that writes the checks.
You mentioned your 24 years in Congress. You spent some time in public service in the state of Georgia, in the legislature before that. Since the 1970s, when you first began your public service, how have you seen the profession, the field of public service, and even the United States Congress, how have you seen that all change?
Well, when I went to the legislature in Georgia in 1976, I wanted to utilize the job as a public trust to represent the people, to use the political process to improve the quality of their lives through jobs and a stronger economy, better education, safe communities, a clean environment, affordable health care, strong defense in the context of a balanced budget. The legislature was collegial. It was at that time predominantly Democrat. And of course there was collegiality with our Republican colleagues. When I came to Congress, I found in 1993, when I was sworn in, that colleagues were collegial on both sides of the aisle. They worked together. They disagreed in debates and in committee, but after hours, they socialized and were friends. I guess about the mid-90s, that changed, and it became much more contentious, and it seems to have gone downhill from there in terms of our ability to work together to accomplish our work for the common good. I'm very hopeful that we will be able to once again regain that collegiality. I belong to a group called No Labels. We believe that it's more important to fix our problems than it is to fight. To solve our problems rather than to point fingers. And it's a bipartisan group made up of Democrats and Republicans equally committed to getting the work done on the issues on which we can agree so that the American people can have from our government what they deserve.
Congressman Sanford Bishop from Georgia's 2nd District, thank you for joining us.